So I've been getting back into some of Shannon Strucci's work again, taking a couple months away. I started watching her at first after I saw the director's cut of Scanline that they did with H-Bomber Guy. I enjoy watching their stuff because, they have like a different taste than I do, and of their focus on indie games. It leads to a bunch of reviews of things that I never would have known about, and whether I intend to follow up and experience it or not, enough of it is interesting, enough to just watch someone talk about, that it's nice. And also, her focus on, supporting independent creators is, kind of uplifting for me, because if you don't know, I do a lot of stuff. I write, I draw, and I aspire to be a creator. And seeing people who, are really into supporting small creators is nice. It's sweet. It's uplifting. But what made me want to actually, watch her again? Well, none other than this video's topic, Less is Morgue, a podcast where a ghost and a ghoul talk about stuff. Stick around for the review. I winked and I made a clicking noise with my mouth, and I do not know why I did that. You couldn't see me winking. There wasn't any point to it. That wasn't written in the script. I just did it. Okay then. Less is Morgue is a horror comedy podcast that leans pretty much more on the comedy side for most of it. The two main characters are Riley Almanzor and Evelyn Hooper. Riley is a non-binary ghoul who's moderately jaded but can be very sweet, and Evelyn is a gag ghost who died during a Nickelback concert. A gag ghost? I meant to say gay. Gay ghost. She's gay. She likes women. Evelyn is a gay ghost who died during a Nickelback concert and is genuinely more peppy than Riley. Right off the bat, they have a good dynamic. Riley's pretty pessimistic and socially awkward in an aggressive way. We'll circle back around to that in a little bit. And Evelyn is pretty outgoing and optimistic, and it's just they have a good dynamic. You can even tell before the episodes really dig into their characters. And I also like their sweet, nice friendship moments. They have enough friendship moments where they make me like, aw, that's so nice, that's so sweet, that's so... Yeah, I'm here for the wholesome ghost ghoul content, alright? But I'm getting ahead of myself. The inciting incident of the show is Riley eating Evelyn's corpse. She got crushed at a Nickelback concert 16 years prior, and was finishing up the paperwork for getting into heaven when this happened, and now she's stuck haunting Riley. Honestly, I have so much good stuff to say about this show, that this might be a pretty unstructured, scripted video. Even so, we're 3 minutes in and I'm on the second page of my script. So, it's gonna be a relatively long one for my normal content. Alright. Just like a warning, it's gonna be semi-scripted. I wrote down an entire script, but I'm not gonna follow it to the T, as I am not right now. Let's go. I think the show's exploration into Riley's mental health issues are really interesting. I believe it's mentioned relatively early on, I'm not sure exactly when, that Riley has BPD and OCD. And at first I thought that was just going to be an offhand reference, but they did really dig into it on some occasions. The first time I think they really touched upon it is in episode 13 in Little Workshop of Horrors. In this episode, Riley gets their friend Shaz. Trust me, we'll circle back to Shaz. I want to talk about them now. There's so much to talk about, I gotta pace myself. Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah. Alright. Shaz recommends them a beta reader that's a total pushover, and Riley appreciates this, as they're definitely 100% not autobiographical. Fantasy epic is close to their heart, and taking criticism is not their strong suit. However, when the beta reader gives some negative critique, Riley can't really handle it and calls Shaz into their Skype meeting. What follows is a really neat discussion of how dealing with rejection is harder for both Riley and Shaz due to their neurodivergence, and the way that they deal with that, it's really interesting. I like it, especially knowing that we never get a plot line like this in a big budget movie or TV show. Just look at all this Sia drama going on. Fully side note that doesn't have anything to do with this. You cannot convince me that Sia did 3 years of research before making that movie. She did not. 0%. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. That's not what we're here for. You can look somewhere else for that stuff. I also really like how it's funny throughout the entire episode too, while tackling the serious issues. It balances it well. The funniest part is how Riley continuously denies that the book has anything at all to do with their life, when it clearly does, and it's clearly a self-insert, and they nodded at this later with a joke. They were like, it's obviously a self-insert. That's the first sign of a hack writer. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Riley's mental health is also a focus of the second most recent episode I was writing and recording, Crocodile rocking back and forth in the corner. That's a doozy of a name. In this episode, Riley gets called out on Twitter for the whole show, the podcast. It's an in-universe podcast too. I don't think I mentioned that. I might have mentioned it. I don't remember. And Riley gets called out on Twitter, and people say mean things, and they start to spiral, and they discuss mental health in general, and more specifically, coping mechanisms, and people thinking your mental illness is fictional, and also Riley's relationship with their mom, and stuff like that. Plus, it has some commentary about social media, but not in a hack boring way, because a lot of times when writers use social media, it's weird. I'm looking directly. This is a call out to Degrassi. I love Degrassi. This is a call out directly to Degrassi. Oomph chat? Hastygram? The most recent episode, as of writing and recording, is where Riley full-on dives into their conspiracy theorist side that's been there for the whole series, and turns out to be right about everything, including that the Earth is actually the Moon and the Moon is the Earth. I don't know what that means exactly. And also the fact that there is a star child. And Riley plans on eating this star child. So, yeah. Riley eats people. I thought it was kind of weird how they mixed in fully detached conspiracy theories, like Earth actually being the Moon, as I just stated, with things that are based in reality and are real and happened, like how England definitely could have made the potato famine a lot better and kind of just wanted money and hated Irish people, so they were like, it's not, you can starve, whatever, dude. Gross. Don't stand England. But then I realized that's a thing that Riley, that's fits character. That's fits in character. And I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to point that out. It's also an episode that plays into the weirdness of the show, just fully. Like how Riley's visited by a ninth dimensional being to tell them that they were right about everything. Or for other examples outside of the episode, how you have to leave out meth for Florida Man during a thunderstorm. Or that episode where Shaz gets super drunk during the interview and talks to the washing machine. Speaking of Shaz later. They aren't even a main character. They show up for 2 episodes. I haven't even talked about Evelyn yet. Speaking of which, on first glance, I sort of thought Evelyn was going to be less interesting than Riley, and I thought I was going to like her less than Riley. Just from earlier on, I knew that there were deeper places to go with Riley, but I wasn't sure that they would go super, deeper with Evelyn. I just thought she was all Nickelback and not knowing how to use apps. What was I wrong? Let's start with the modern technology thing. Evelyn died in 2004, so she's not well versed in modern technology, and I thought it would be dragged out and brought up so much that it would get annoying. It would be an irritating running gag, but while they do bring it up mostly throughout the series, it's not a huge thing every episode. The only one that really jumps out at me is that in the speed dating episode, they mentioned that she doesn't know how to use Tinder, but that was one thing. That just said it. That wasn't I don't know how to use modern technology, oh dear, whatever will I do? Ha. Can you tell I watch a lot of sitcoms? I watch a lot of sitcoms. A lot of my media assumptions are based on sitcoms, which is, I feel like this show broke a lot of my media assumptions for it, because it's not written by hacks. Yeah. I was definitely also wrong on the lack of depth to explore. Yeah. there are a couple things I could discuss here, but I do want to talk about what I like to call the heartbreak arc. The heartbreak arc.
It started raining after midnight. I don't have any friends. Surrounded by ghosts, dancing alone.
So, in episode 16, for reasons that you don't really need to know, Riley calls up Evelyn's old girlfriend before she died, Olivia. They set up a job interview where they ask questions that Evelyn wants to know, because Olivia can't see Evelyn, because most people can't see ghosts. I just said that now. You have to be, like, unhinged from reality in a way to be a human that sees ghosts. Anyway, when Olivia's fed up and about to leave, Evelyn possesses Riley's body forcefully and talks directly through them. She catches up with Olivia, and it's like sweet at first, and they're like reminiscing, and she apologizes for getting blood splattered all over Olivia's body at the Nickelback concert. But eventually it becomes pretty apparent that they're looking for different things. Evelyn fully wants to get back together and has wanted to since she died. But it's been 16 years and Olivia's moved on now. She's married now and has been for 8 years. And once Evelyn realizes this, she's absolutely devastated. Like socks rocked off. And it does, like, the consequences are dealt with in the following episodes. Like, they do a couple things, like Riley does a couple things to try to help Evelyn feel better. Like, they summon Edgar Allan Poe to talk about heartbreak, because he was the first emo sad boy who wrote about it and became famous, you know what I mean? And in the next episode, Riley tries to cheer up Evelyn by going to a camp that turns out to have a counselor that's just murdering everyone. Side note, Counselor Jordy P is one of my favorite, like, one-and-done characters. I absolutely died laughing at, like, all of the screaming dialogue and, like, the plucking of the guitar. Plus, in episode 20, Riley signs Evelyn up for a ghost Tinder. It was really interesting to see another side of Evelyn. I lied about her always being upbeat and optimistic. She has her moments of anger and disgust, but seeing her feel like garbage for, like, an extended period of time was interesting. Something else I'd like to talk about is that the show doesn't have, like, the buzzwordy version of, like, likable and relatable protagonists. Like, Riley literally eats a guy for pretty much no reason in the first episode. Evelyn can be considered a likable protagonist, but, you know, Riley regularly eats people, like, just consistently. It's just a consistent thing. And neither of them are, like, relatable in the sense of a blank slate character who just always happens to be white and straight and cis. Wow, surprising. I can definitely relate to those things. But I can really relate to characters in Less is More. Like, I can relate to how Evelyn likes to look on the bright side and how she's really, really into something. For her, it's Nickelback. For me, it's Pokemon, but you know, Pokemon rocks. So I can relate to Riley's existence outside of the gender binary and how they sometimes get really into something and can't stop working on it, like I did with this video. I relate to Shaz's passion for art and some of their viewpoints about how you should make art for yourself. Having to make relatable characters in, like, the buzzword YouTube sense is dumb. It's just a marketing term that people on the internet picked up on because it's easy. Like, it's easy to say. It's easy. But, like, you know, you don't have to make the characters a blank slate. I don't, like, it fits sometimes. But a lot of times it just leads to a boring character. If you make interesting characters, people will be able to relate with them, and even if they don't relate with them, they'll still be interesting to watch, which is the main thing that you want, probably. Hopefully that's what you want. Hopefully you want people to watch your thing, or read your thing, or like your thing, or play your thing. I don't know, dude. A consistent source of comedy throughout the episodes are the ads in the middle of them. I spelled ads wrong. I spelled it ADDS, like addition. Normally they interject when someone tells a long story or leaves to eat or otherwise like a long space and they'll interject in the middle of the podcast, and they don't know how they show up, they just do. A lot of the minor characters are pretty great. I've already talked about Jordy P. the murder counselor and Florida Man, but there's also Todd, a supernatural Silicon Valley guy. I didn't think he was going to come back after his debut episode until they explicitly said that he wouldn't come back, and that's when I knew. And when he does come back, Riley and Evelyn convince the gargoyles working for him to unionize for fair pay. It's pretty cool. And we've already established that my love for Shaz, they've just got that chaotic energy that I really appreciate. I want to see one of their art installations, and it makes me weirdly sad that I can't, because they're a fictional character, and they are not real, and I want them to be. But they're a ghoul, and they don't exist. As far as I know, I don't live in Florida, dude. There are a bunch more characters that are interesting and have nice moments. Like Fred the Incubus, helping Riley start coming to terms with the fact that they don't know what they want in a relationship and that that's okay. Or the therapy gun moment for top 5 slimes and here's why. Or that one weird meathead ghost who just tried to get with Evelyn. And honestly, the rest of the ghosts in that episode, that's a good episode. I like the murder ghosts. Or that one guy, when Riley needs to sell bones, who keeps lowering the price. I could go on about this show. It's really good. But I do want to wrap this up soon. I've been recording for almost 19 minutes. I did not think it was going to be this long. I thought it was going to be like 8 minutes. I gravely underestimated the amount of things that I had to say about the show. I wrote it down. I did a loose calculation. It was not right. To be fair, it was late at night, so whatever. But I do want to wrap this up soon, so we're going to go through a couple rapid fire things that aren't really connected. I just need to point them out before we leave. Let's go. I really like all the anti-capitalist stuff sprinkled throughout. It's nice to see. It makes me very deeply uncomfortable whenever people repeatedly misgender Riley, probably because I have to deal with that on a daily basis, and it's also kind of cathartic to watch in a way, to see someone else have to deal with that, you know what I mean? I appreciate the amount of pirates on the show. I know there have only been 2 pirate episodes, and I hope there are more pirate episodes. Yeah, pirates are wonderful. This show makes me want to write some sketch advertisements. I've written 2 before, but I never produced them, so maybe look out for that one, maybe. I don't know. I do not know how they did it, but there's like bits of audio body horror in here, and I just think that's really impressive. And finally, Evelyn does that thing Unikitty does, where she has glimpses of anger, where her voice gets demonic, and I think that's good, and I like it. I really do recommend giving this podcast a listen. It's just under 9 hours long, and the episodes are released bi-weekly. I believe there are 23 of them. You won't regret checking it out. It's wonderful. Don't forget to distrust authority, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.